Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. I am super excited today because we have Kate Anthony in the house. And Kate was on The Selfish Woman a while ago. And actually, it was probably, I think, one of the most popular episodes. And you guys love Kate. I love Kate. And I'm excited to talk to her today. Kate Anthony is the author of The D Word, Making the Ultimate Decision About Your Marriage. She's host of the critically acclaimed and New York Times recommended podcast called the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. And she's the creator of the groundbreaking online coaching program, Should I Stay or Should I Go?, which helps women make the most difficult decision of their lives using coaching tools, relationship education, geeky neuroscience, community support, and deep self-work. Kate is certified as a domestic violence advocate, a co-parenting specialist, and a high conflict divorce coach. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me back, Val. It's so good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. When I found out you had a book coming out, I was like, I got to get you back on. We got to talk about it.
Yay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So it's called The D Word, which I love. And
Yeah.
it's coming out December 26th, right?
It sure is. And it's
Okay.
available for pre-order anytime. So
Pre-order. Perfect.
yeah, it's out there. It's so
Excellent.
bizarre.
Yeah, right? Your baby's going out into the world.
Here it is. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's weird to like hop on Amazon and see you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, right? Like I am an author. Well, I can't wait to talk about the book. I got an opportunity to read it, and I gotta tell you, Kate, like you are bringing the facts. This book,
For better or worse.
you are telling it like it is. There's so much in this. I was surprised at how deep you really go into the whole process leading up to should I leave, and then the leaving, and then the after. Even you really bring so much to the table as far as walking the reader through the entire process.
Thank you.
Mm.
First of all, thank you for reading it. That's amazing. And I mean, I hope all of those are good things. It is like, it's really hard. I was talking to someone recently and they were like, well, could you sort of break down your process? Like if it were to be like a flow chart. And I'm like, if it were a flow chart, I think I wouldn't need to write a book, right?
Yeah. Right.
Like I am always the one who's like, yeah, but there's so much more under that. And then under that, there's more. And then there's, and I do believe there is, right? Millions of women wouldn't be struggling with this question every year if it wasn't so complex.
It's so complex. And like you say, it's really one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. I've done it twice. You've been divorced once.
Just once. I've only been married once.
Okay.
I've only been married.
And
one
so
marriage, one divorce, one kid.
Okay, one and one
Yeah.
one. Yeah. So we've both been through this process, and so I saw so much of my own journey through this book. But I'd love to just dig into a few topics and areas that stood out for me that I know really resonated with me, and I'd love to hear more about it from you. So let's dive in.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So the first thing I loved that stood out to me was talking about boundaries. And I loved what you said. You said that you had been trying to set boundaries in your marriage for like a decade. And then you said he stopped treating me poorly after that because I was no longer available to receive it.
Yeah.
Once you started setting boundaries. Is that right? Like, tell me a bit more about that.
My marriage was very emotionally abusive, right? And so I spent like a good 10 years being like, you can't treat me this way. You can't talk to me this way. And then he would continue to treat and talk to me that way. And I thought I was setting boundaries, but that's not really, look, boundaries are very easy to set. It's the holding and the reinforcing that is so hard.
Yeah.
And when you say, you can't do this to me, and then they do it again, your job is to remove yourself from the situation. And when that's your marriage, that's a really tall order. And that's a very difficult thing to even, contemplate, right? Which is why I wrote a whole book about it.
Mhm.
But really that was what ended up happening was actually it was that my ex-husband continued to abuse me well into our divorce.
Mhm.
And I realized at a certain point that I was continuing to show up as the victim. I was still showing up the same way in our divorce that I had in our marriage.
Right.
And that the only way for us to like stop this dynamic, and I do want to say that my ex and I are very close now.
Mhm. Mhm.
We've been divorced for 15 years.
Mhm.
We share a kid. He has another son from another relationship that I have helped raise for the last 12 years. So we have we have a very good relationship now.
Yeah.
I swear that is only because I was able to separate myself out from that, from continuing to be his victim.
Right.
And it sucked because it put other people in the line of fire.
Sure.
But I couldn't do it anymore.
Well, yeah. And, I hear this, and I'm sure you hear this so much. It's like, I'm telling him he can't treat me this way. And I keep saying, like, you can't talk to me this way. And nothing changes until the woman finally says, I mean it. And I'm out of here if you're going to continue to do that. And that is often the only way to stop the abuse, is for the woman to actually mean it and then be willing to follow through.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And by the way, that is the moment. That is the moment at which the man will usually say, whoa, 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 no, 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 wait, I got it. I get it. I understand now. I see everything. I promise I'll change. Right. And
Yep.
what my husband said to me about 3 weeks after I told him I was like completely done, he came to me and he said, Kate, I am so sorry. I just never thought you'd leave.
Wow.
And I was like, huh, so you knew the whole time.
Yeah.
You could have done something about it the whole time.
Mhm.
You just thought you could continue to get away with it because you never thought I would do anything about it.
Wow.
And that was really kind of an enlightening moment for me. And I
Uh-huh.
think that, and I want women to understand that, like, your if your spouse comes to you and says, like, wait, I totally get it. I see it now. I'm going to change. I swear, I promise. Let's go to therapy, like blah, 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 blah. What they're really saying to you is, I can change. I just didn't think I had to.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
how much they value you.
Exactly.
And that's
And
sad.
yeah, it's so sad. And that's often what we hear too, is when we finally say, like, I'm done, they feel so blindsided, like, wait, what?
They're always. Listen, I don't care if you've been saying it for 5-10 years or 2 weeks. If you've been telling them that you're unhappy for 5 years, the day that you tell them, actually, I'm done and I'm leaving and I have a plan, they will be so shocked and they never saw it coming.
Yeah. Mhm. And maybe in
Sometimes.
hindsight, like your husband, they might be able to see it. But really in those moments, it is so common for women to be like, I've been talking about this for years. I'm finally done setting the boundaries. And then yeah, the guy is like baffled that you're leaving. And I think a lot of men don't really think that their wife will leave.
No, they really don't.
Mhm.
Well, and for good reason, right? Because we've been saying it for years and years and years, and then we don't leave.
Right.
So so obviously they believe that we're not going to leave because we haven't.
We've set the precedent.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We
No.
have.
And just as we were chatting before we've hopped on, January is called Divorce Month. And so I think it's a great timing for your book to come out, because it
Yeah.
is often that month where women are so fed up after holidays and trying to hold it all together for the kids. I've been there, for the kids, the family, doing all the shit.
Right.
And, and then January rolls around and it's like, okay, we've got the holidays out of the way,
It's
done
time.
the thing.
Yep.
It's time. And that's
Yep.
when I left my second marriage, was January.
Yeah.
And so really great timing for your book to come out.
Thank you. Yeah, I blurted it out on Christmas Eve, which is I very much don't recommend. I have a whole chapter in my book. Really, this whole book is for so that you don't have to do that.
Don't do what I did.
So that you don't just like get to the end of your rope on Christmas Eve. It's
Right.
terrible. It's for a very awkward Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, we literally, I said it, I blurted it out. And then we had to assemble a toy kitchen.
Oh God.
Ready for Christmas morning. It was
A
awful.
little awkward.
Awful.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those moments that we think back to and like, who was that? Who was I that back then? Why did they do that?
it's like, I mean, honestly, it's like it's something out of like a TV script at this point, right? Just
Yeah.
like, but oh God, it was
Yeah.
awful. So yeah, so my book is to help you not do that.
There you go. So one of the things you say, which I think is going to be hard for some people to hear, which I love that, like I said, you bring the facts, you tell it like it is, which I love about you. You say married women are the least happy population group.
Yeah, they did a study. They did a study of all like heterosexuals, right? And so, and it was determined, I don't know who they is, by the way, I'd have to look
It's
it up.
always they.
It's always they, right? They,
Yeah.
somebody. But they did a study and they determined that the most happy group of heterosexual people are married men.
Oh, okay.
They're the happiest.
Okay.
The next is single women.
I thought you were going to say single women were the happiest, but we're number 2.
We're number 2 because married men have it going on.
That is true. I'd be happier if I had a wife doing my laundry and cooking.
Exactly. Married men have it going on. So then the second happiest are single women. We are super happy. We just have to do all the, you know, we have to manage it all, and it's difficult.
Right.
The third of this group is the third most happy, or the second least happy, however you want to structure it, is married men. Single men. And the least happy group are married women. And there are a lot of, and I think it's no mistake that married men are at the top and married women are at the bottom.
Right.
Like, if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about marriage, I don't know.
It's hard truth, but yeah, I mean, when you look around, it makes sense that that's going on. So what I liked about what you said about that is you gave some categories as to perhaps why married women are the least happy. And you said it's due to the mental load that women take on, the emotional labor. Then something you call the second shift. And then invisible labor. Can we just unpack that a little bit? Because I think that's so fascinating. So let's start with mental load.
Well, the mental load is like, you know, knowing that your child has a project due on Friday that he's going to need poster board for, and you had poster board, but no, you used the last piece. So we're going to have to make sure that we go to the art store to get that stuff. And it's Monday, so you need to do it by Friday. So you're calculating, right? You're calculating these things all in advance. This is the mental, we are carrying that stuff. And we're always thinking about it. We're always thinking 10 steps ahead to make sure everybody has what they need, and to make sure, right? Oh shit, there's no milk for coffee in the morning. Okay, I need to make sure I get that on the way home from school. But first I'm going to pick, you know, Jody up from ballet, but then we're going to swing through. Oh, actually we have to go to Target because we also have to get the poster boards, right? That's how women's moms' brains operate.
It's so true.
Right. You know, and we're carrying all of it, and it's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Have you seen that TikTok trend where they ask a man, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
Yeah. Right.
And overwhelmingly the guy's like, oh, once a week, or like so often. And we're all like, what?
Like, first of all, why? Secondly, how do you have time?
How do you have time? But isn't that interesting and indicative of the lower mental load of a man, that they have space in their brain to just think about the Roman Empire.
Think about the Roman Empire.
You know, like the impact that on society. Like, it's so baffling. Whereas women are like you just did, the constant checklist, doctor's appointments, school things, blah, 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 blah,
Right.
on
Yeah.
and on and on. It
On and
is
on.
exhausting.
It's exhausting.
Yeah. So, I mean, just that in itself proves why married women are the least happy.
Right. I mean, just that alone. And that's
Just that
only,
alone.
that's only the first one.
Right. So
That's
then let's go to emotional labor.
Emotional labor is like we're everybody's therapist. We're everybody's nurturer. We're everybody's caretaker.
Mm.
Overwhelmingly, men don't, now, generally speaking, overwhelmingly, men don't go to therapy. They
Mhm.
don't consume personal development the way that women do. They just don't. And so that leaves us in the position of being their therapists.
Mhm.
It puts us in the position of like, when they've got something going on, we're having to say, oh, wow, gosh, I wonder if that's because, have you ever thought about the fact that, right? And suddenly we're like helping them unpack, and we're nurturing their emotional, lives and safety and blah, blah, like all of that.
Yeah.
And we're doing that for everybody. We're doing that for our kids. We're doing that for ourselves, right? And it just,
Yeah.
it's a lot of emotional labor to be the caretaker and the nurturer of the family.
It so is. I remember when my kids were turning like into teenagers and they needed a different kind of parenting, right? And I had every parenting book all along the way, read all of them.
That part.
Yep. And my husband came to me because there was an issue with my daughter, and he said, I don't know what to say to her. Can you like write down what I should say to her? And I was like, yeah, totally. I got you, babe. And I like gave him a script of how to talk to his teenage daughter. Plus I had like pages highlighted in the parenting book. So he didn't have to read the whole book. Just here, I don't want to burden you. Just read the highlighted text. And when I look back now, I'm like, oh, no wonder I was exhausted.
Yeah. I have an entire podcast episode about this, and a chapter in my book about this. It's called Not My Fucking Job.
I love that.
Not your fucking job to read all of the parenting books, highlight the necessary pages or chapters or sections, and then like give your husband the Cliffs Notes.
Right?
That's not your fucking job.
Yeah.
Right? When your husband says to you, I don't know how to talk to her, I don't know how to parent a child like this, you say, here, there's a book about it, and you hand it, walk away.
Or say like, Google it.
Google it.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know how to do it either.
Like, no. And I mean, I love Not Your Fucking Job. I think you should trademark that, by the way. Yes, oh, good. Excellent. I want the t-shirt. But yeah, and also it's not our fucking job to teach a man how to treat us. How do you treat a woman with kindness and decency and love? Like, it's not our fucking job to teach you.
Our fucking job. No, listen, in relationship, it is our job to teach each other how we need to be loved. What's our love language, right? Like how I need you to be with me in order to be in relationship with me. But that's a two-way street, right? Correct. And I have done the therapeutic coaching, personal development work to actually be able to hand you my owner's manual, like how to work with me. And my partner needs to have done the same work so that they can hand me theirs. Right? But it is not my fucking job to teach you how to be in a relationship.
No, exactly.
Right? I mean, I was dating someone really recently, and he was like, I've only been in 2 relationships in my life, and they were both, really codependent, not healthy. He's like, I don't know how to do this. And I was like, dude, you're 60. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it is not my fucking job. I am not doing that.
Can't help you, sir.
No,
bye.
Absolutely not. Bye. Literally, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Not our fucking job. And I like that you explained the difference between communicating to our partner what our needs are.
Yeah.
Versus teaching them how to be in a relationship, or teaching them what is emotional abuse, or doing that kind of emotional labor.
That's right. That's right. I'm happy to teach you how to be in a relationship with me.
Right.
But I'm not interested in teaching you how to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
You're good.
Exactly.
You're going to figure that out.
So also why we're not happy as married women.
That's right.
Yeah. So second shift, what is that?
Second shift is everything. So, the 40-hour work week was designed for men who had wives at home doing all the domestic labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The reason we have a 40-hour work week is because men could go to work for 40 hours a week because everything else was handled.
Right.
And then when women moved into the workforce, it's not like men picked up half of the domestic labor.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to work for, 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and then we come home and then we have a second shift. We've got another job that starts when we get home. And it's very disproportionate. There have been numerous studies done that show that even the men who think that they do 50% of the work in the home actually do probably 20.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is this mental load stuff, right? They're not carrying all of that stuff.
Right.
And that women are really doing an exponential amount more than men are doing. And it's exhausting us and wearing us out. So it's like we come home and then we're like, okay, now we got to do the science fair project and we have to cook dinner and we're, thinking about, what's for breakfast tomorrow. And maybe we're making lunches the night before. And, men on average have an extra, I think, have 3 hours of more leisure time a week than women do. And where are they finding that? Right? They're just doing it.
Right.
And then we're like, oh, okay, I guess you're going for a bike ride now. All right, I guess I got the kids.
The conditioning that we all have inside the patriarchy is creating that. And, I work with a lot of corporate clients and I work with a lot of corporate women.
Yeah.
And it's astounding to me, overwhelmingly, how many of these women come to me and they are like VPs, like directors of companies, managers, C-suite. And they come to me and say, when I go home, I'm doing everything.
Yeah, everything.
Or my husband wants to help, but he wants me to make a list for him or
that's right.
walk him through his responsibilities. And it's not that they're bad guys. They want to help out, but it's just that there's such a conditioning around this that women don't even realize how much of this they're taking on.
Yeah. And I want to address that, like the list making, right? Because that's part of the mental load, right? It's, oh, no, I want to help. First of all, it's not help. Help implies that it's my job that you're assisting me with, right? That's not how it works. But I want to help. Just tell me what to do. Well, now I'm the manager, right? Again, it's my job and I'm delegating. If you want to actually take it off my plate, you have to own it.
Yes.
And I shouldn't know anything about it. The way that you don't know anything about half the shit that I do in the house all day.
Like own it from the beginning to the end.
That's right.
All of it.
All of it.
Yeah. Love it. Yep. Okay. And then the last one is invisible labor. What is this?
It's sort of similar to the mental load, but it's like suddenly the toothpaste, there's new toothpaste in the bathroom. Suddenly there's, toothbrushes have all been swapped out. Suddenly there's milk in the fridge. There are always snacks in the pantry.
Right.
And it's magic. Except it's not.
The behind the scenes things that we do as women that nobody else really pays attention to.
Right.
It's just happening for them.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a great breakdown of why there's so many women who are initiating divorce.
Yeah.
What is it, like 70% now of divorces are initiated by women, something like that.
Yep.
So that's a great breakdown of just why I love that.
The
other thing I wanted to jump into, and kind of along the same topic, is men's role in domestic labor. And you have a few categories here as well that I would love to learn more about. First we have unicorns. What are the unicorns?
Unicorns are like, they actually just magically share all domestic labor. Like and my husband was a unicorn, my ex-husband. He was a full-blown unicorn. He
Wow.
would go to work. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time when we were married. He would go to work, he would come home, and he would dive right in. And there was no asking, there was no, right? He would always stop at the grocery store. What do we need? Is there anything else that we're out of? Right? We had a list that he always was aware of.
Right.
He would walk in the door, and if I was cooking dinner, he'd immediately take our son. He would do bath time while I was cooking, and then we would all have dinner, and then one of us would do bed while the other wash dishes. Like,
That's
domestic
lovely.
labor, I don't know how it happened, but he was an absolute unicorn in that way. And that wasn't really the way he was raised either. But
So they
but
are out there, and
they are
they
out there.
exist out
But by the
there.
way, but also, like, he also emotionally abused me.
Right. So you got the
Right, so
unicorn.
a unicorn domestically does not make him a unicorn. He does not make him the perfect.
No, but we give him points. My second ex was a unicorn in the sense that he did do a lot of the labor, the domestic labor, but only the things he liked.
Yeah.
So like he wouldn't clean the toilet and he wouldn't pay the bills or do any of the finances, which was like, okay, it sounds good. But then if I asked for help with one of those tasks that he didn't like, he would say no. And he would say like,
Yeah.
Either I don't know how or I don't want to.
Oh,
So,
that's great. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
know how.
right. Like I don't know how to log into my bank account to pay that bill.
Yes. Yeah, that's the weaponized
Yeah.
incompetence.
Yeah.
What's the other word for it? Whatever, the strategic incompetence, like, but I don't know how.
Right.
You know what? I didn't either until 10 minutes and I Googled it and figured it out.
So does that tie into the second category of men's role in domestic labor, which is oblivious enthusiasts?
Yeah, the oblivious enthusiast is a guy, this is the guys that are like, no, we totally do 50%. Like it is totally 50-50 in our household. I am a feminist. It's like absolutely 50-50. But you ask their wife and, she's like behind him rolling her eyes like,
Right.
no, it's fucking not. Like,
So like they mean well, but
they do.
Yeah.
They do mean well, but they're not actually hitting the mark.
They're oblivious.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
right. Exactly. They're really enthusiastic about it, but they're oblivious.
Okay. Then we have the passive accommodators.
Oh yeah, they're the ones that are like, can you just help me? Like, make a list. Well, you should have asked. I didn't know that you were so overwhelmed by making dinner and doing the laundry and cleaning up the dog poop and you should have just asked for my help.
Again, coming back to the help. Let me help you. Give me a list. Let me know what you need me to do.
Yeah. And I'll be happy to do it.
Right.
But then, I'm the manager.
Yeah.
So the passive accommodators, they're willing. Oh, I'll totally do it. But I'm not going to like get in the driver's seat and figure out what needs to be done and just do it.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. And then the last one is entitled misogynists. I mean,
the guys that are like, they're just the guys that are like, it's not my fucking job.
Right. Yeah.
It's not my job. I mean, I have a client who's, she was the breadwinner. She was a C-suite executive. She busted her ass. He sort of barely worked and sort of, played a lot of golf for networking. But every single day she was washing bottles, making food, cleaning up the house. And while he sat on the couch watching TV, and it was, as far as he was concerned, domestic labor was a woman's job.
Right. Right. Okay. We know some of those.
We do.
Okay. So, and I want to address this because I feel like some people are going to listen and go, oh, you guys, you're just man bashing, but the reality is what I love about your book, and I'll say it again, is you bring the facts, because when women are in the process of trying to decide whether to stay or go, we need to call a thing a thing. We need to be real about what's going on. And this is just literally some of the deciding factors, I'm guessing, for women.
Absolutely. It's just important to go, actually, you know what? I think my husband is oblivious.
Right.
And so maybe I can then sort of bring that to him. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, about the man bashing is that, look, all of these are patriarchal structures that are put in place and have been for centuries. But the bottom line is they don't serve men. They don't serve modern men. They served, men in history, but they don't serve modern men. Modern men die at much younger ages than women do. They have shorter lifespans. They have more health problems. Men are not happy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so all of this, like, smash the patriarchy is not like kill men.
Mm-hmm.
It's, oh my God, we have to make this better for all of us.
Yeah.
Right? Like, believe me, they say happy wife, happy life, but like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that doesn't mean I just say whatever she wants me to say. No, that means I participate and I am an actual equal partner.
Right.
And then, Eve Rodsky talks about in her book, Fair Play, that like, then men feel like they're actually a part of, like, they feel so connected to their children when they have ownership over, domestic labor, whether it's, batch cooking for the week, or like being in charge of the morning, getting ready for school, the morning process, right? Like, they're actually feel like an empowered parent and more connected to their family. And like, we all want that.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
We want that for men,
Yes.
not just for women.
Exactly. And that's why, like you said, we all have internalized misogyny, and misogyny doesn't serve men or women. And so that's why we need to break down the patriarchy. But and also, like, if a man is parenting instead of babysitting, like, it's so much more empowering.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna, I remember going away for a weekend when my son was like 1 or something. And I said to a friend, and we were in the playground, and I was with a friend of mine who at that point had 3 kids. Twin boys that were like 3. My son must have been, anyway, it doesn't matter. They had twin boys and a baby and an infant.
Yeah.
And he's a dad, and we were at the park, and I was like, I'm going away for the weekend, but I have to like make sure that I go grocery shopping and like, you take care of all the, food prep, and like make a bunch of meals to make sure that, and Greg looked at me and he goes, why? And I was like, well, so David, has everything that he needs and doesn't, and Greg just sort of very passively said to me, I'm of the mind that nobody should have more children than they can handle on their own for one weekend.
I love it.
And I was like, oh, right.
Makes sense.
Right. And here's this guy with, 3 kids under 4, and he's like perfectly fine.
Yes. There's this guy that does videos, and he's actively sort of working on his internalized misogyny. And it's really fascinating to watch him talk about his relationship with his wife and everything. But he had this one video where he said, my wife went away for the weekend, and it's the first time that she just left without giving me a list, without telling me what to do. And what I loved about what he said is, I've earned her trust, that I'm trustworthy to take care of our children. And I thought that was amazing.
That's right. Right. Because it can seem so, that I love the idea that like he earned her trust. Like, it was his job to earn it. Again, like the ownership of that.
Yes. Yes. I love it.
Yep.
Okay. Let's move on.
Okay.
Another thing I loved was when you talk about, and you talked about being in an emotionally abusive relationship. I've been in an emotionally abusive relationship. I know for me, one of the huge things was actually understanding that it even was emotional abuse. It's so hard when you're in it.
Yep.
And I found myself really making excuses and justifying and trying to even protect him, because I didn't want people to think that that was happening.
That's right.
And so
That's
I
right.
love how you talk about, are they an abuser or just an asshole?
Right. Right. And by the way, like if they're an asshole, you also don't need to continue to be married to them.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Um, but yeah, it's so important and it's so hard, right? I remember Googling once. He's like, you always say that I'm abusive, but I'm not. I looked it up and I was like, really? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, he doesn't say those like really overt things to me. He
Mhm.
doesn't tell me he doesn't tell me I'm fat. He just suggests every day that I should probably, are you going to go to the gym today?
Right.
Right? Like he doesn't say like you'll be nothing without me, which is sort of what if you Google it, these lists are very overt,
Mm-hmm.
but usually they're not that overt.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they're far more covert, and the gaslighting confuses you, that which is the design, is that you're confused, that you
Yeah.
don't know what's going on, that like you think it's up and he says it's down, and then you spend your life sort of trying to turn yourself upside down to make down seem right, because why would someone tell you it's down when it's really up? That doesn't make sense. I must be wrong.
Totally. It's such a mind fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. It makes you question your own reality,
Yep.
your own experience. That for me was one of the most insidious things I'd ever experienced, was to find myself questioning my own reality. And
Yep.
and even in my journal, like a year later, I found myself writing something and gaslighting myself.
Right.
Like it's
Yep.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's literally crazy,
Yeah.
right? Like you feel crazy.
Yeah.
And you're the gaslighting yourself is like, well, let me twist my entire reality to fit the picture of the reality that he's presenting,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously I'm the crazy one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that keeps so many women, I think, staying longer than they should.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think?
Absolutely. A hundred
Yeah.
percent.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And when I was going through it, and probably when you were going through it, like there were no podcasts, there was no Instagram, there were no conversations about this.
Mm-mm.
2022's word of the year was gaslighting.
Yeah.
Like we are talking about this and
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yes.
But I didn't have that. And I still see women all the time in my Facebook group, or they write to me and they go, I didn't understand. I didn't know. You named it all. And now I get it.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, oh my God, like if I could just give that gift to all the women all the time,
Mm-hmm.
which is,
Mm-hmm.
part of why I wrote this book, like understand it, please understand it.
Yes. Well, that is the gift of your book. You really lay it out. And that's why I love diving into some of these things, because I know our listeners are going to be resonating with so much of this. I quickly want to touch on a few different types of abuse, because I also think it's important to acknowledge that, like, we're not talking about physical abuse, we're talking about emotional abuse, but you talk about financial abuse. And that's something that I think a lot of women might be experiencing and maybe not realizing it or understanding what that is.
Yes. Oh my God. I did a reel on this the other day, and it got people mad.
Mm,
And I haven't rewatched it to like see like, was I really that unclear? But of course it was all men,
of course. Right.
right?
Mhm.
So look, both parties should have access to all of the money in the marriage. When you get divorced in most states in the US, it's everything that it was every bit of money that came into the marriage during the duration of the marriage belongs to both people. It's a marital fund, except
Right.
for inheritance.
Right.
That includes interest earned on 401ks, right, that were started before the marriage, but the interest that was earned and the contributions during the marriage are
Right.
marital assets. Same is true of debt. So what people don't understand is that, so what I see very often is women that don't have access to all of the funds. I know someone who just confided in me the other day that her husband makes about $250,000 a year, and she went into extreme credit card debt because he didn't pay for anything for the children. Everything for the children was on her, right? So they keep separate finances, and I'm not saying separate finances but like keeping separate finances is perfectly acceptable if that is a choice that you both have in marriage.
Right.
One person withholding money from the other is abuse. One person withholding money and squirreling it away and saving and buying a new car while you are going into extreme debt to pay for diapers and preschool and, gas, and driving a car that doesn't work is financial abuse. If there's this absolute imbalance of power around money, it's probably financial abuse. Now, if you keep your own accounts and you put together money in the joint account, like having separate accounts is not financial abuse in and of itself. Like if we have separate accounts, but there's a major marital, expenditure that comes up, like we work that out together.
Right.
Because it's a marital expenditure. Children
Yeah.
are a marital expenditure.
Right.
So yeah, it's unbelievable how much financial abuse there is. You also have people, taking out and racking up credit cards in their spouse's names, right? And ruining their spouse's credit. So that's another one. If you're the primary breadwinner and your spouse is willfully underemployed and sitting on the couch playing video games all day.
Oh yeah.
That's financial abuse.
I've heard that a lot.
Oh, me too. The stay-at-home dad. I mean, the stay-at-home dad thing is, there are so many people that I've heard of who consider themselves stay-at-home dads, but what they do is they take the kids to school and they play video games all day. They don't actually do the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, like all of the stuff that a stay-at-home mom would do. And then they go pick up the kids from school, they bring them home, and then they go back to their video games.
And the place is a mess and the food's not on the table. And
Right. That's not a stay-at-home dad.
No.
That's a lazy SOB.
Right. No. Okay. So what about women who know they need to get a divorce? They're clear on that, but the finances is keeping them stuck. Like they just don't have the money to get out. Like what's the first thing they should start doing now to start preparing for being able to leave?
Yeah. It's a great question. They should start looking for work. Women giving up, and I say this as a former stay-at-home mom, right? But women giving up financial independence, and sort of turning their lives over to the financial care of men is the biggest mistake that we make. We buy into the fairy tale, being a stay-at-home mom is the fantasy, and we buy into that. And all it does is, I say in the book, it is an investment on which there is very little return.
Yeah.
And so the first thing you should be doing is looking for work and brushing up your resume, and maybe, talking with a job coach or somebody who can really help you get back into the workforce. One of the other things I want to say to women is that when I have a client who's going through this, and she's like, but I'm going for an interview and they were asking me about the gap in my resume and why I was interviewing for a job so far beneath what I used to do, but I haven't worked in 15 years. And I said, be honest. Be honest. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. I'm getting divorced and I need to work. I know it's under, it's below my, qualifications and all of that. And I need to work, and I'm going to be your most dedicated employee because I have to work. Right? Be
Yeah.
honest. Don't sort of pussyfoot around, right? Because people get that.
Yeah.
People get it.
Right.
Right? That's a human condition.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think the first thing is, hire someone if you can to help you with your resume, get on LinkedIn, get on Indeed, start looking for work and start interviewing, because, interviewing is a practice, right? So just start the interview process, interview with as much as you can, and focus your life and your time on getting employed.
Right. Yeah. Great advice. To your point around giving our financial power away, just thinking back to when I was like 30 years old, stay-at-home mom, didn't finish college because got to get married.
Right.
And then we actually separated because he cheated on me. We separated for 8 weeks. The reason I took him back was because I didn't have a job and I didn't have money and I had 3 little kids. And if I hadn't given my financial power away, there's no way I would have taken him back.
Right.
And so, I just see that so often now in so many of my clients, so many women who know they got to go and they feel stuck. So I love that too, that you're giving practical advice to women who can start now, do something now to start building yourself some independence.
Exactly. Anything.
Yeah.
Look, if it's like selling your crafts on Etsy, then it's selling your crafts on Etsy. Like, I don't care what it is. And if you're being financially abused, you're going to open a bank account in your name only. You're going to squirrel as much as you can away as often as you can. You're going to keep it hidden. It doesn't mean that you are, when it comes down to the divorce, you're going to disclose this money. You're not like, hiding assets. You're not stealing assets. You are just making sure that there is money that you actually have access to.
Yeah, totally. Love that. So the other thing I love that you do in this book that you write about is how to tell him you want a divorce, number 1. And number 2, how to tell the kids.
Yeah.
And you even give scripts. Like, I love it because it's like, this is the stuff we need. We need this practical execution of those really challenging conversations.
That's right. That's right. Because how many clients do you know who have said to you over the years, well, I tried to tell him, I've told him 4 times, but he just doesn't believe me, or he won't agree. Right. And my biggest piece of advice is that this is not a conversation. You're not looking for agreement or understanding or permission. You are simply making a declaration.
Yes.
Right? I have made a decision and here it is. Yes. So it's non-negotiable. Right? But if you're looking for him to say, yeah, I guess you're right. We've come to the end of the line. Like, it's not going to happen.
No, he's going to fight to get what he wants, which is you to stay.
That's right.
So I love that. It's not a conversation. You are just simply relating your decision.
That's right. That's
right. Love that. And I think that's key. So many women are looking for this fantasy conversation where he's like, oh, I see your point of view. I understand. What can I do to make this easier for you?
Right. And, look, I wish. I do. I wish, but no.
Yeah.
Never. Never.
Yeah.
Or rarely.
Yeah.
Mine did. I was like, oh, wow, you gave up really easily, I guess. Like, you didn't want to fight for me at all, huh? So, whatever.
Well, he's a unicorn on a few areas then.
That's right, exactly.
No, I love that. And women need to rewind that and listen to that again, because that is so powerful. All right. I want to end with the last little bit, which is like, what next? What after? We've left, we're divorced. And the thing that you talk about is something that we've all said, we all hear. What if I'm alone forever?
Right. Oh no. Val and I say, oh
no. as we're living our best lives alone.
Right. Alone. Exactly. Living our very best lives alone.
God, yeah.
And, look, here's the thing. Like, do I want to be alone forever? No, I don't. But I'm also, what I say to women when they say, like, what if I'm alone forever? I say to them, so what if you are?
Oh.
What if you are?
Yeah.
Right? Because that, first of all, okay, like, is being in this better than being alone? And if that's the case, then we got a lot of work to do on you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Which is where I start the book.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
work on you.
Yeah.
But being settling for fear of being alone feels very tragic to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It feels very like Jane Austen, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have to do that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in the modern world. As much as it feels like we're not sometimes, we are, and we have choices,
Mm-hmm.
and listen, for now, they are trying to take away our choice for no fault divorce, right? I mean, in the US, we can all just get divorced. We don't have to prove that anyone did anything to us in order, like,
Right.
we can make the decision
Right.
without prove fault.
Right.
And get someone to identify, say like, oh yes, that's good enough, right? But of course, they are trying to take that away from us now, along with
Okay. Of
autonomy.
course.
Yeah, of course. But for now, we have choice, and so yeah, like, if being alone is the worst thing that would ever happen to you, then we got to do some work on you, because you're
Yeah.
fucking awesome.
Right. And having a safe environment, a peaceful home
Yep.
is priceless.
Oh my God. I have not walked on eggshells in years, over a
So
decade.
freeing. It's so freeing.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I love that. And this fear of being alone does, I think, keep women staying, but also going all the way back to the list of happiest people. Single women were number 2, right?
That's right.
So
That's right. We have come full circle. Well played.
Yeah, and there we go. Tied that up nicely. Yeah, but once you, like you said, do the work on yourself, you've got to do the work.
That's right.
You've got to find your happiness.
Yep.
And you do that brilliantly in your book as well, of how to do the work on ourselves to be okay with being alone. And so I think what I'm sort of hearing in that is like, trust the process, do your work, and trust that like it's going to be okay. And the last thing that made me laugh out loud, LOL, was when we started dating. Are you talking about like getting back into dating, and when is it too soon or whatever? And you said that something your therapist told you about, you know what I mean, right?
I do.
Tell us about this.
She said, you can consider yourself certifiably insane for the first year and a half after your divorce. And I was like, come on, I'm gonna meet my next husband and I'm gonna transition this real quick and easy.
Real quick.
And indeed, I was certifiably insane and made insane dating choices.
Yeah.
And made a lot of mistakes, and it was completely insane. And she was 100% correct. And so when people say to me, like, when should I start dating? I said, listen, start dating as soon as you want. Just know that you're fucking crazy and you should not be trusted for a good while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Use this time to get to know yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, you don't feel like you're certifiably insane. Like,
oh,
you
no.
really don't. But it's in hindsight, right? Did you have this experience too?
Oh, yeah. No, I was like, I'm so good to go. I'm like so good to go. And yeah, looking back, it was like, oh, wow. That was a lot of crazy there.
That's right.
But so good, right? Like you say, because you're just out there, you're being messy, you're making mistakes.
Right. And if you consider dating to be one of the greatest sort of like playgrounds for learning about yourself.
Oh yeah.
Right? Keep the focus on yourself. Keep taking your own temperature. I would be talking about these guys to my therapist, and then she would say, like, you keep sort of talking about whether he likes you, or, do you like him? And I'd go,
What a question.
"Huh? No. Right? But I was so focused on getting him to like me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
was he gonna save me? Was he gonna rescue me? And like, oh my God, he was a disaster.
No, I loved dating as a self-growth experiment. And I would like go on dates and then I would talk to my therapist and I'd be like,
Mhm.
I saw myself doing this old pattern again, people pleasing again or whatever. And she'd be like, okay, great, let's talk about it. You know, so yeah, I love that. You're certifiably insane for a couple of years. Just be
You are.
crazy.
And that's okay. Like we
That's
all
it.
are. We all are. And it's
Yeah.
okay because it's a great learning process.
Yeah. I love it. So yeah, I love all things about this book. I feel like it's really just like the user's guide to divorce. But even I would say, and tell me if I'm right, women who are even just starting to think about it
Oh yeah.
need this book.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Like if it's like, if you're starting to think about it, this is your book.
Right.
If you're thinking about it and you're like down the road thinking about it and you're, you know, even about to embark on the process, I think this book is still for you.
Totally.
Yeah.
And if you're at the other side as well,
Yeah.
there's so much validation in this book.
I think that's true. I have a friend who read it and she was like, I felt so validated reading it.
Yeah.
And her divorce was years ago. And she said, I felt so validated. She's like, this was the book that I needed back then.
Mhm.
But it helped explain so much of what happened.
Absolutely. Like my divorce was, well, I left my marriage 3 years ago, but then I left my first marriage in 2014, 2013.
Yeah.
And I saw so many things in both of those experiences in your book that just again validated me and helped me to remember like why I did it in the
Yeah.
first place. So, you know, it's just a beautiful book. And thank you for doing it, writing it, and giving us this resource.
Thank you so much, Val. Thank you for reading it and for saying those kind words about it. I mean, it really matters.
I know.
It really does, right? It really
I
matters.
know it really does. And I was so thrilled to read it. And I love you and I love your work. And I've told you before, your podcast has saved me many a time. And it's brilliant too. So coming out December 26th, The D Word, and everybody pre-order it. It'll be your Christmas present to yourself.
That's right.
Right.
And if you go to my website, kateanthony.com/dword, there's a whole page for the book. And it also gives some tips about how to order it in secret so that
Oh,
it doesn't show up like in your Amazon order history, for example.
okay. That's good to know. I never
Yeah.
thought of that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. We don't need everybody knowing we're reading this.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But there are ways to get around it. So,
Okay. Love it. Thanks for hanging out with me, Kate.
well, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure. You're awesome.
Always a good time. And take care. And bye, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.